of the Taupo Urban Commercial and Industrial Structure Plan reconvened, and welcome everybody this morning. Very quickly before I call for apologies, we are on webcam with regards to this meeting this morning, and I've been told by Ms. Takawai that they've made some alterations to our microphones, or whatever you call them, so we don't have to lean forward. Is that right, Ms. Takawai? Like long-necked turkeys? Okay, so the way we were doing it before, some of us looked like we were long-necked turkeys or something, but however, I think we're trial and error. I think we're finally going to get there in the end. So I've got 3 vacant seats here. Mr. CEO, have you got something to tell me where some of the councillors are?
Apologies for lateness from Councillor Weiss, who's been called urgently to the courthouse to fulfil her other duties.
Yep.
And apologies for Councillor Welch and Councillor Downer.
All right. Move Councillor Gallagher. Do I have a seconder? Yep. Councillor Heckling. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Right. You all know what today is. We've got the rewritten version of the draft structure plan. From a draft, hopefully, to a final paper. Today we will be going through it page by page. I will only be accepting content changes. I don't want you tell me that there's a comma missing here and is spelt with 2 Ds or 1 D. You can give all those minor changes to Mr. Carroll or the staff after this meeting, but we will definitely be going through it page by page. However, before that, I will give Mr. Carroll an introduction to the report that you were all sent to speak to that, and then I will have something to say before we go and turn over page by page. Good morning, Mr. Carroll and Mr. Gibbs.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and councillors. The draft was circulated about a week ago, and you will have noticed that there have been a significant number of changes. Biggest one is probably going from portrait to landscape. We want to make it very clear that this was the policy document coming out of Council's deliberations as opposed to the consultation document. Because of that shift from being a consultation document to a policy document, you will have hopefully picked up that the whole tone of the document has changed as well. The consultation version was very much about telling a story about how the structure plan had developed and providing the reasoning about why it had got to the decisions that it did. The policy version that you've now got sitting in front of you is more about saying that this is Council's vision going forward, and these are the actions that you're going to take to achieve that vision. We've taken the background material that had been sitting towards the front of the consultation version, and we've pulled that to the back and called it the background. You'll see there's a little less detail sitting in there, and that's, I guess, just to reflect the fact that 2 things really. One, that background material is not as important in terms of telling the story at this point in the process. But 2, we wanted to send the signal that if people want further information on that background material, then it's all referenced in the back of the document, and it's probably more appropriate for them to go to those technical reports rather than us try to provide a précis which will inevitably miss out some information. The one part of the document which obviously remains uncompleted at this stage is the section on the civic heart, and we've tried to maintain that as a completely isolated section as much as possible. The intention is that that will be redrafted once we bring back to the council the information that's been requested about different alternatives, and at that time the council can consider the proposed wording for that section and any other consequential amendments that might be required. At this stage, the only other consequential amendments that we anticipate are to the actions and priorities section, where it may well be necessary to insert some additional actions and their relative priority. That, at this point in time, essentially covers off all that we wanted to talk about. As the chairman mentioned, we're more than happy to take copies that you may have scribbled notes on as you've gone through your process of looking at things that can be improved. But today is very much about making sure that we've reflected your decisions in this amended draft. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. And if you, councillors, on the second page of the agenda item that was sent out to you, down the bottom you'll see a suggested resolution. The first part, at this point in time, I will be giving notice of motion that I will be moving this resolution, but I will also be adding a part 2 to it, so you have plenty of time to think about it during the day or when we come to the conclusion of this, as to with regards to the second part that I will be giving notice of motion that I will be adding to that. And that is number 2. It's very simple. It's only about a line and a half, and I'll read it out slowly so that you can write it down. That.
Where is it?
I'll wait for Councillor Welch to catch up.
Well, you give me the courtesy.
Yes, I will.
The door in Blyth's on the way up too.
Yes. You got one?
This was just tabled now, wasn't it?
No,
This has been circulated. This was given to you
email.
A week ago.
last week. Now, the suggested resolution, the first part's in typing, but I intend to add the second bit as number 2. And I'll read it slowly so you can write it down. That there will be no, and the no is spelt N-O, not K-N-O-W. I keep getting reminded in this chamber from some of my lovely lady councillors that I use the wrong grammar words, like breach and one or two others. That there will be no council administration building on the Tongariro North Domain, recreational reserve. Councillor McKelvey.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I presume that you would like a seconder for that notice of motion?
If someone wants to give me a second as a notice of motion now, I will accept that. Otherwise, I'll wait till the end of when we finish the process. Yes?
I would be delighted to be the seconder, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, does anybody want to say anything? Mr. Mayor has told me that he wants to say something because he won't be here. Now, if this comes up when this comes up, and there's a reason why he won't be here for a couple of hours today, Mr. Mayor?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, some mayors around New Zealand have pledged to help Mayor Bob Parker with the earthquake appeal for the poor souls down in Christchurch that are still getting, I think they just had a 6 about an hour ago. So I'm outside Whitcoulls every day. We started yesterday, 12 to 2, collecting money for the mayoral fund for the Christchurch people. So, sir, I will be leaving the meeting at 10 to 12 today. I will return after 2 o'clock after doing my stint. And I'd just like to say I'm more than happy, if I'm not here, sir, to put on notice that I support the notice of motion that you have moved, sir.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Burnett, Councillor Burnett, you had your hand up?
If there wasn't going to be somebody seconding your part 2 of the motion, I was going to do that.
All right, thank you. All right, Councillor Heckling?
Yeah, just a bit of clarification. The term recreation reserve, because there are areas within the recreation reserve that are local purpose reserve, a designation. That's correct. So is this resolution in regards to the building, in regards to the building, only referring to the building on recreation reserve?
That's in the Tongariro North Domain, which is north of the Great Lakes Centre. From there all the way up, that's all reserve.
I'm aware where the areas are.
Well, I would say I'm not going to dispute that. You should know where it is, Councillor Heckling.
I'm very well aware where they are.
I'm not going to argue with on that one.
And I also know the difference between recreation reserve and local purpose reserve, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, well, that's the recreation reserve I'm talking about. Not the southern part, because there is a resolution about that.
Thank you.
All right, remember?
Yes.
There was 2 resolutions put before that we can't entertain or change. I've already given a ruling on that.
Yes.
This is entirely different. This has come out of our discussions when we discussed that, and that's why we went down there. Now, I'll just make the point that resolution looking at the south of the Great Lakes Centre as Mr. Carroll has rightly said, that's why that part has been left out of this, because we want to progress this. We don't want that civic centre, as you will quite have said to me, Councillor Ackland, on more than one occasion, and for the incoming council to look at. Now, the staff might come back and say it's not a goer, so there's not really much to talk about. But that council will decide, all right? Now, they might decide, yep, we'll go ahead. If that's the case, it's still got to go out for public consultation. Okay. So it's a long way down the track before anything is likely to happen there. But the reason that I want this bit included in there, because I'm getting mixed messages. I've even had a couple of lovely ladies from Taupo ring me up, confused down there. So I intend to make it, and that's why I suggested that this resolution be put in there, so there's no confusion.
Absolutely.
All right?
I fully agree,
Hopefully.
Mr. Chairman. I was just wanting some clarification.
Thank you, sir. Councillor McKelvey.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, on a completely different matter, I'd just like to thank our hard-working staff members here for fulfilling our request that we have this document back within a week, at least a week before this meeting. I know there's been a huge amount of work, and I'd just like to thank them for that. It's been very helpful. Thank you both.
All right, now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to get down to the work part of it. You've all got the new version. If I can find the page, let's go to contents. If anybody's got any comment on the content part, please let me know, because I'm going to go through some, turn the pages over and stop me when you want us to discuss something on that page that you wish to talk about. We're on part one, or did you have something with the index, Councillor McKelvey?
Just in relation to the background section, I'd just like to give notice that under the part background information, I think it needs to be clearly stated somewhere.
What page are you on?
I'm on that, just on the index.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm just giving notice of this because I think it's quite important that we've got time to think about it.
Yes.
In relation to the background information that starts on page 67, some of those reports relate and recommend directly on the draft plan. We have since amended that draft plan substantially, and not all that background information has been amended. Some of it has, very well, but there are other parts that still relate only to the draft, and I think that needs to be noted.
Carol, can you note that? Thanks. Apologies. Thanks. We've taken those, Councillor Downard and Councillor Blythe. Good to see you this morning. All right, thank you. Righto, we'll turn over the page, Part A, Vision. We're going to page 8, Introduction.
Could I just make a comment regarding that contents page? It works through in terms of actual areas, but if somebody, for example, wanted to look up for information specifically on industrial environment, they've actually got to work their way through the whole thing till they find it. And I just thought that might be useful, seeing as that industrial is a large part of this commercial and industrial structure plan, that there's some mention, at least in the contents page, of that.
Perhaps if you see the second section, land use patterns, under Part B, page 18, that's where we talk about the industrial zoning moving forward. Perhaps if we retitle that land use patterns,
Town centre and industrial.
Town centre industrial.
That would be helpful.
Something
yes.
like that. And also perhaps under Part C background, where it talks about infrastructure overview, in brackets, industrial land.
Exactly. That would be very helpful.
So you've got the words industrial coming up a couple of times.
Yeah, yes, please. Thank you.
Because as I've always said to you, intelligent planners, especially Mr. Gibbs over the years, treat us all like dummies. You know, you planners are pretty well switched on when it comes to planning jargon. So, you know, some of us would like you to put it in comic form, but that may be stretching it a bit. Someone else have their hand up? Councillor McKelvey?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm on page 8 and 9
Yes.
because they're all part of the introduction. And your comment about treating the reader as dummies, I think, is a very good one because it leads into what I'm saying now, and that is that I think there is a presumption by the writers that everybody understands where the town centre environment is, where the industrial environment is, where the lake is, where the river is, what river it's called, and a few other things. So my first suggestion would be that in this introduction, or perhaps as an appendix to it, that there should be a basic map